The dim orange glow of the streetlights reflected off the damp pavement as 32-year-old Naomi Carter walked hand in hand with her 8-year-old daughter, Layla. It was a cool fall evening in Brookhaven, a small but racially tense town. They had just left the grocery store, bags in hand, heading to the bus stop. Layla clutched a small stuffed bear tightly, her eyes lighting up as she spoke about her excitement for the upcoming school play. Naomi smiled warmly, listening intently. She knew life wasn't easy in Brookhaven for people like them, but she always did her best to shelter Layla from the ugliness of the world. As they approached the bus stop, a police cruiser pulled up abruptly. The tires screeching to a halt, Officer Ryan Whitaker stepped out, a towering man with a sharp jawline, cold blue eyes, and an aura of unearned authority. "Hey, you!" he barked, pointing at Naomi. Startled, Naomi turned to face him. "Yes, officer. Is there a problem?" "You look suspicious," Whitaker sneered, scanning her up and down. "What are you doing out here at this hour?" Naomi frowned but kept her composure. "I'm just taking my daughter home. We went to the store." Whitaker scoffed, stepping closer. "Don't get smart with me. Show me your ID." Naomi hesitated. "Officer, I haven't done anything wrong. I don't understand." "ID? Now!" he bellowed, his voice startling Layla, who clung to her mother's leg. Naomi sighed, carefully setting her bags down and reaching into her purse. Layla's eyes darted nervously between her mother and the officer, sensing the tension. As Naomi handed over her ID, Whitaker snatched it aggressively. "Where do you live? What's in those bags? Drugs?" Naomi's jaw tightened. "They're groceries. You're welcome to look." "Don't tell me what I'm welcome to do," he snapped, throwing her ID back at her. "Empty your pockets." "Officer, please," Naomi said firmly. "This is harassment. My daughter is here." Before she could finish, Whitaker slapped her across the face. Layla screamed as Naomi staggered back, her hand flying to her cheek in shock. Tears welled in her eyes, but she stood her ground. "You don't talk back to me," Whitaker snarled, his hand twitching near his baton. Naomi straightened, her voice steadied despite the sting in her cheek. "You've gone too far. This is assault, and I won't let you get away with it." Whitaker laughed cruelly. "And who's gonna stop me? You? A nobody." But Naomi wasn't a nobody. She was a fighter, and years of enduring systemic racism and injustice had taught her how to push back. She pulled out her phone and began recording, her voice clear and unwavering. "This is Officer Ryan Whitaker, badge number 738. He just struck me in front of my daughter for no reason. Please share this video." Whitaker's face darkened. "Turn that off or I'll arrest you for obstruction." Naomi didn't flinch. "Go ahead. Arrest me. Let's see how the public reacts to a video of a racist cop assaulting a black mother in front of her child." Layla, inspired by her mother's courage, wiped her tears and stood beside her, holding up the stuffed bear like a shield. People began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Some pulled out their own phones, recording the escalating scene. Whitaker's bravado began to crack as murmurs of disgust and outrage rippled through the growing crowd. "You better back off, officer," one man shouted. "We're all witnesses." Whitaker's hand hovered near his taser, but he hesitated. The cameras were everywhere, and his actions were no longer shielded by the shadows. Naomi's voice rose above the crowd. "We've had enough. Enough of being treated like criminals for existing. Enough of the abuse of power." Suddenly, another police car arrived. Sergeant Emily Brooks, a senior officer with a reputation for fairness, stepped out. Her eyes scanned the scene, narrowing when she saw Naomi's red, swollen cheek and the fear in Layla's eyes. "Whitaker," she barked, her voice sharp. "What the hell is going on here?" Whitaker stammered, "This woman was resisting." "Save it," Brooks snapped, turning to Naomi. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Naomi nodded, her voice shaking with anger. "He hit me in front of my child. For nothing." Brooks turned to Whitaker, her expression stone cold. "You're suspended. Hand over your badge and gun." "What?" Whitaker protested. "You can't." "Now," Brooks ordered. "And consider yourself lucky if she doesn't press charges." The crowd erupted in cheers as Whitaker, red-faced and humiliated, handed over his badge. Naomi's shoulders relaxed, but she knew the fight wasn't over. "Sergeant," Naomi said, her voice steady, "I will be pressing charges, and I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Brooks nodded. "Understood. You have my full support." As Naomi and Layla walked away, hand in hand, the crowd parted for them like a tide, offering words of encouragement and solidarity. The battle was just beginning, but Naomi knew one thing for sure. She would never stop fighting for justice. Not for herself, not for her daughter, not for anyone who had been silenced for far too long. Naomi's resolve strengthened as she returned home, her phone still clutched tightly in her hand. She spent the night uploading the video to every social media platform she could think of, adding a caption that read, "A racist cop assaulted me in front of my daughter. Help me make sure he's held accountable." By morning, the video had gone viral. News outlets were calling, civil rights organizations were reaching out, and hashtags like #JusticeForNaomi and #StopPoliceBrutality were trending nationwide. Naomi's story resonated with millions who had experienced or witnessed similar injustices. Among the calls she received was one from attorney Marcus Blake, a renowned civil rights lawyer. "Naomi," he said firmly, "we're going to take this to court, not just for you, but for every person who has been mistreated by people like Officer Whitaker." Naomi agreed, and within weeks, the case against Whitaker and the Brookhaven Police Department began to unfold. The trial was a media spectacle. Whitaker's defense team painted him as a dedicated officer who had simply been overwhelmed during a tense moment. But the video told the truth. On the stand, Naomi recounted the traumatic night, her voice unwavering. Layla, too young to testify, sat in the courtroom clutching her bear, her presence a reminder of the harm Whitaker had caused. The prosecutor revealed a history of complaints against Whitaker for excessive force, most of which had been swept under the rug by the department. Witnesses from the crowd that night testified, describing the unnecessary aggression they had seen. When it was Whitaker's turn to take the stand, his arrogance remained. "I was doing my job," he claimed. "These people always think they're above the law." The room fell silent at his choice of words. The final blow came when Sergeant Brooks testified. "I've worked with Officer Whitaker for years," she said, her voice steady, "and I've seen firsthand his biased behavior. The department turned a blind eye, but I refused to do the same." The jury deliberated for less than a day. The verdict was clear. Whitaker was guilty of assault and misconduct. The court ordered him to serve time in prison and pay damages to Naomi. But Naomi's victory wasn't just in the courtroom. The case sparked a movement in Brookhaven. Town meetings were held to address police accountability. New policies were implemented to ensure officers were properly vetted and trained in de-escalation tactics. Naomi became a symbol of resilience and justice. She started a foundation to support victims of police brutality, using her platform to amplify their voices. One evening, as she tucked Layla into bed, her daughter looked up at her with admiration. "Mom," Layla said softly, "you're my hero." Naomi kissed her forehead, tears welling in her eyes. "No, sweetie, you're mine. You gave me the strength to fight back." And as Naomi turned off the light and closed Layla's door, she knew that their fight had made the world just a little bit brighter, not just for them, but for everyone who dared to dream of justice. Enjoyed the story? Don't miss out on more thought-provoking and powerful content. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support helps us share these important stories with the world.